Hi there, in this video I will look at creating overlapping and bullet style charts using native visuals in Power BI similar to these. As I mentioned in this article, these are a good way to illustrate period over period change in performance. However, they're not so straightforward to create natively, but with the help of a little DAX and some formatting, we can deliver these for your next report. Okay, let's go. Okay, before I start, I've included a link to this file in the notes if you wish to follow along. It includes the data, all the DAX expressions, and the template that you will see me using for this video. I also want to give a shout out to two of my nephews back home in Ireland, Matthew and Adam. Hope you're tuning in again, and maybe these videos will give you some inspiration for a career in maths, statistics, or data analysis. All right, let's get to it. Okay, so let's take a look at what we're going to create. These are charts that will measure the current year performance against the previous year. So if I select a year in the slicer, the color portion of the chart will show the current year, and either the gray background or a black line will represent the previous year. Blue indicates better performance than last year, and orange indicates worse. If I look at the matrix here, I've got scores from 2015 to 2022 for 6 different schools. And if we look at the data itself, it's structured as a long, thin table with the years from 2015 to 2022, the schools A to E, and then the scores. So just scrolling down, we see everything here. Again, if we look for the year slicer, I've got a disconnected year table. So there's no connection between the school scores and the year itself. This will allow me to select a year without it sort of filtering the main table. Okay, so back to the main charts themselves. So we've got this overlapping chart. It's got a gray background with then the colored bars in the middle. We have sort of a bullet chart that has these graded gray boxes on the outline, and again these sort of horizontal black lines. And if I switch to the horizontal, they follow the same concept, just really pivoting the axes from the X to Y, so showing the overlap. So if I get down to creating these, I've set up a template with the calculations already. So this is more about applying the process and formatting steps. So I have this year slicer that is using a disconnected year table. Now look at the first DAX calculation, which is looking at the score this year. If I zoom in on it, I have selected year as a variable called TY. And then I have the last year, which is basically TY minus 1. And then I've created a table, which is filtering the school scores just by this year. So that's just creating a filter table that I can then put a variable, which is the score. So I just want the average scores from that table and then return the score. So that's just the score for this year. Now if I look for last year, I'm just using the last year variable instead of this year. So the filter is looking at last year instead of this year. So this year is this year, and last year is last year. So what I've done is just drop these two calculations in this matrix just to show the values for this year and last year. And if I switch between the different years, you'll see the score for this year and the last year. And if we compare those to the matrix I have on the right, you'll see you're getting the correct result for 2018, which is last year, and that lines up. So I'm going to look to create the first visual. So I'm going to drop last year and this year and school on the x-axis. I'll switch this just to a clustered bar. So this is showing this year's and last year's as a column chart. We can't show these as sort of overlapping, so we need to look at something a little bit different. So we need to create a low version and a high version. So we want two different versions of our calculation. I'm just changing this to average X instead of sum X. So this one's looking at low and this is high. So we're just seeing where the score is, where last year's score is less than this year's, return it. And if it's not, then return the other one. So if I drop both of these in, I get a single set of columns, one for last year high and one for last year low. And then what I want to do is create the equivalent for this year. So this year high and this year low. So it's as if this year is higher than last year, or if this year's score is lower than last year. And I'm going to put these in as lines. This might look a little bit strange to start off with, but you'll see there's a bit of method to the madness here. So next we're going to look at a bit of formatting, just to tidy this up a little bit. So I'll remove the legend first, and then the title, I'll replace the title here just with an overlapping chart. I'm also going to get rid of some of the titles and the values from the secondary axis and change the columns both to the same color. Just a grey background, or grey color, sorry, and increase the spacing to make these columns slightly thinner. For the lines themselves, I actually don't need the lines. These lines are just going to act as reference points, so I'll just reduce their line thickness to 0. I'll put in a bit of a white background just to make it easier to see, and turn off the title on the x-axis because we know these are schools. Alright, so we're going to look at the error bars now. So we're going to use two, so this year high and this year low. So for this year high, we need to enable it first. And then we're going to apply 2 different error bars. So the first one, we're going to look at having an upper bound of this year as a high value, and the lower bound is, we're calling base. Base just equals 0. So base, it goes from 0 to the high. So where this year's score is higher than last year, those are the ones we're showing. So I'm going to use this type of a blue-ish bar color. And what you want to do is increase the width to the maximum, turn off the marker type, so we get this sort of a blue bar, and we can increase the border size to give that sort of white border effect. Then for this year lower, so where this year's score is lower than last year, we're going to select the base for the lower and score this year low. So we're going to recolor these format as an orange type color. Again, it'll come up. So all these scores are less than last year's scores or grades. So they're orange, so they're less than the sort of the gray bar. So again, we see, if we switch between years, we see where there's orange for school A and E, that corresponds to where it is. So you can see that it's working just by applying a few different steps. Yeah, so that's basically the first chart complete. So next I'm going to move on to creating a bullet chart. And again, we'll drop in school in the x-axis here. And what we're going to do, we have these for the graded lines. I've just created these simple DAX measures. Each is 20, so there's 5 of them. So the 5 add up to 100. So they're going to, if I stack them on top of each other, they're going to give me 5 equal sort of boxes that are going to be in the background to show my sort of gradual gradation from 0 to 100. Now, if you want more or less, you just adjust the number that you're using in the background. And I drop this year's score low and this year's score high in the line for the y-axis. Again, turn on the background and then do a little bit of formatting, removing grid lines. The colors, I'm going to change those to sort of be a a grade of a grey, so going from dark grey to light grey. You can use any colour you wish, but I think this works pretty well. And then adjust the spacing again to make it thinner column width. Remove the legend. What else I'm going to do? The title, so adjust the title to sort of a bullet chart type title. And we remove some of our, or adjust some of our axes titles as well. So test scores here. And we're going to go to work on our error bars. So this year low, we want the base to be our lower value. And then this year low for our upper bound. So it's showing those two ones in the middle there. I think you can just barely see it, but if I adjust the color here and change this to the orange, it should stand out a bit better. And again, increase the thickness as much as you want until it's sort of visible. Put a bit of a border on it. And then do the same for this year high. So we want our upper bound to be this year high and the lower bound to be the base value, which is 0. Enable that. Again, change the color, increase the marker size, or sorry, increase the bar width, remove the marker. So we got both of those there. And now what I want to do is remove the lines that we have, so we don't actually need to see those. But first we do need to add in last year's score. So this is last year's score, so we need to put a marker in for last year's score. So what I want to do first is to turn on the markers, and then for the lines I want to remove or reduce the stroke width to 0, so these disappear. So all I'm left with is the markers. If I go back to the markers, I don't need this year high or this year low. All I want is last year's. So if I have last year's and I change this to a horizontal bar, increase the size of that horizontal bar, and then change that color to black, I get that sort of target horizontal bar. That's the effect that I was kind of looking for. And again, if I select different years, the colored columns change color, and the horizontal lines adjust for last year's score. Okay, I'm not going to recreate the middle one, but I'm just going to show you it here. It's just got less steps. So you just have score last year. You don't need those sort of two different values to give you the high and low, because we're not using the color formatting. Okay, so next I'm going to move on to the horizontal bars. Problem here is we don't have the equivalent of a sort of combination line and column for these, so we have to use just simple bar charts. So we have to use sort of an alternate method to give sort of the similar type of style. All right, so we'll move into the template that I've got set up here. So we have our two horizontal bars set up. I'm going to drop in the school in the y-axis for both, just to start off with. And then just do some simple formatting initially, just to turn on those backgrounds so that it's white in the background to start off with. All right, we'll start with the overlapping chart. We'll drop in last year's score, and we'll sort the axes based on the school in ascending. So it's from A to F. And then adjust this, so we want the maximum to be 100, because that's our maximum allowable score. So it's always going to have the same sort of scale. And we want to have sort of a couple of iterations of the same calculation. So this score last year too, which is basically the same as score last year. We just have two of them, so we're going to have both of those in the same visual. So they're just sitting side by side. One will act effectively as the high and the low, but they're not high and low, they're sort of equal scores. Again, just you can keep these as sum x. I'm just using average x because that allows it to be scalable in the future if you ever need it for sort of different school, or if there's scores for different subjects in a particular school, then average will always give you the average. All right, so we have this score last year 3. So this is looking at logic. So looking where last year's score is less than this year's, then return the score, otherwise return 0. And then this year score 4 is the opposite. So it's where it's more than. So we drop in 3 at the top, and then we drop in 4 at the bottom. So we effectively have 4 bars, but at any one time there's only ever 3 because of the logic that we've applied. So those outer ones, a 3 and a 4, are always it's either one or the other being represented based on what the score is. So yeah, if I zoom in a little bit here, so you got it, the green and the dark gray are the middle ones, and then the red and the light blue are the outer ones. You'll see in a minute why why we have it set up this way. All right. So let's do a little bit of formatting here. Get rid of the grid lines and get rid of the legend. Turn off, or we adjust the title here to the school, and turn off the y-axis title. And the bars, we want them all to be grey. And you'll see that there's a bit of an uneven space between them, so we have to adjust the inner padding, make it almost maximum, or maybe just under maximum. You'll see that it's slightly uneven if you look at it. And then we change the title to just overlapping chart again. And then we want to go down to our error bars again. So we have our 2 internal bars, year and year 2. Those are the ones that we're going to use for creating this year's and last year's, whether it's higher or lower. So for year 2, we're going to look at this year low. So if this year is lower than last year, so we have that orange bar. So it's the sort of the second bar that we have in the middle. Now it becomes orange. We increase the thickness of that bar. And then for the first one last year, we use this as this year high. And we use the base for the lower bound. Again, turn that on. So this is where the score this year is higher than last year. Again, we turn on, put it on the border if you want to have that sort of effect. You can, if you want, make it thicker, or you can leave it just the way it is. Again, so if we switch between the different years, you see the overlap changes and the color. You see there's still this sort of maybe a wider gap between some of the categories. So again, you can kind of adjust this inner padding spacing to make it sort of less obvious. You'll see if you make it inner padding spacing less, you get a bit more of a gap, so it's probably best to leave it slightly, increase the padding slightly more, somewhere between 45 and 50. Alright, so we'll move on to doing the target chart. So quite similar again. We use these the 4 values for last year, and we put them in the same order Here I'm showing just 3 and 4, where you're showing it's only ever going to be 1 for any school. And we drop in the first and the second versions. So again, exactly the same as the previous one that we had. This one's slightly different in that we don't want the gray bars as a background. So I'm actually going to turn, I'll turn off the middle ones again, just so you can kind of see, yeah, we've got the sort of the red and the blue depending on which logic is applied to each school. But if I turn them all off to white, so you need either a white background, so it just needs to match your background, we adjust the spacing. And for last year, yeah, so last year we're going to use the high value. So this year high, and the base of 0. Enable that, turn it on so we get the blue lines again. And then for last year 2, this is for lower, so we use the base for the lower bound, and then this year low for the upper bound. Turn that bar on, we have the width, so again it's similar to the bar or to the chart to the right, but we don't have that sort of overlapping grey. We want a kind of a target line that looks like this. This took me a bit of a while to figure out how to do it, but it kind of came to me when I was creating the greyed out overlapping chart. What we want to do here, instead of creating a full sort of bar length, we just want almost like a marker. So instead of having the base, we use the score last year as the lower bound and also as the upper bound. So you just get a mark. It's quite faint there. You just have a mark that's being shown. So we increase, or we change the mark type, change it to black, increase its width and size, or sorry, not the bar width, the mark size as thick as possible, and even increase the border as well, just to make it even thicker. But you'll see it's only showing on one side. So it's not going to cover both. So we need to apply this. You'll see there if I go back to base, it just shows you that it's basically from the base side. So if we have the lower and upper bounds as being the same, it's basically creating a mark. So we're going to do this for year 4 as well. Basically exactly the same. So this is the outer bar. So it's almost like a twinning of the 2 marks. So we're going to try and make them kind of touch each other. So it gives that sort of effect of being a single vertical bar. Make changes to black. It's not quite touching there. There's still a bit of a gap in there. So what it might, let's see if they're all, increase the border size to 2. There's still a little bit of a gap. It might just be the inner padding spacing. So you make it to 50. It looks like they're touching. So yeah, you might need, depending on the size of your visual, you might need to play around with some of that padding to make it look like it's touching. So yeah. So again, if we play around with the date, it should work there. But again, you see there's a little bit of a jump when you move from one year to the next. The sort of the gap between the bars is slightly different. So that's kind of the only drawback here. If you're a little bit OCD, you might not like that increased gap between the horizontal bars, but yeah, it's not something we can sort of avoid here. But hopefully the core visuals team may work on something that we can use. Just a little bit behind the scenes, looking at how we can maybe apply this to KPIs. So there we go. That's how we create different versions of overlapping target and bullet charts using some hopefully fairly straightforward DAX and some novel formatting application to give us these type of visuals that you may not have thought you could create using native Power BI visuals. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe to get my upcoming content. Okay, until the next time, see you later.